made a plan to come back to Austin.
Witness this third shot at the par 5 13th.
So how do each of these technologies work?
Modern golf was supposed to make the game better, but Ben Crenshaw believed it was quietly taking the soul out of it. On June 17, 2026, golf's biggest leaders made a huge choice. The USGA, the R&A, the PGA Tour, and the DP World Tour all agreed to delay the golf ball rollback. This plan was supposed to slow the ball down. Instead, it got pushed back until at least January 2030. For years, golf had been changing fast. Balls flew farther. Drivers got bigger, courses got longer, and one man had been warning about this for decades before anyone listened. That man was Ben Crenshaw, a two-time Masters champion, a gifted putter, and a respected course designer. As this debate heats up, give this video some hype if you think golf's future should still respect its past. When the rollback got delayed, his old warnings suddenly felt alive again, almost like the sport had circled back to a debate it never truly settled. Crenshaw spent his life saying that modern technology was making golf too easy. He said big drivers and new balls were changing the sport in ways nobody fully understood at the time. He watched courses that once challenged the best players in the world start to feel small and predictable. But here's the hard question this video will ask. Was Crenshaw really protecting golf's soul? Or was he a man so in love with the old game that he could not accept the new one? Golf did not just get easier because players got lazy. It got faster because athletes trained harder, equipment got smarter, and fans wanted a bigger show every single weekend. Crenshaw saw the damage clearly, and much of what he said turned out to be true. But his answer may lean too hard on the past, too eager to blame machines for changes that were also driven by people. That tension between a beautiful old idea and an unstoppable new reality, one built on memory and the other built on machines, is what this story is really about. To understand why Crenshaw felt this way, you have to go back to his own swing, long before he became a legend. Crenshaw was trained by a legendary coach named Harvey Penick, a quiet Texas teacher who shaped generations of golfers. Penick taught something simple. Hitting the fairway matters more than hitting the ball far. Crenshaw took this lesson deep into his heart, and it never really left him for the rest of his career. In the 1970s, Crenshaw had a real problem. His shots flew too high and drifted out of control, costing him strokes and confidence. He kept losing balls in the rough, and it threatened the career he was trying to build. So he made a choice that looks strange today. He switched to a shorter, extra-stiff golf shaft. This new shaft cost him about 15 yards of distance, a real sacrifice for any competitive golfer. But it gave him something he wanted more than raw power. It gave him control. He could hit more fairways and trust his ball flight under pressure. This one choice shaped his entire view of the sport for the rest of his career. He believed that giving up power for control was the smart way to play golf, and he never really stopped believing it. Now think about what this really means for his later warnings. Crenshaw solved his own personal problem by choosing accuracy over distance, and it worked wonderfully for him. He then carried that belief for the rest of his life and applied it to the whole sport, almost as a universal rule. But modern players never lived through his exact struggle in the 1970s. They trained in gyms built for speed and power, using methods that simply did not exist when Crenshaw was young. They studied swing speed with cameras and sensors Crenshaw never had. They grew up with different bodies, different coaches, and different tools from the very start of their careers. Crenshaw's answer worked beautifully for Crenshaw. It does not automatically mean it is the only right answer for everyone who plays the modern game today, even if his instinct came from a real and honest place. Now let's talk about the equipment itself, because this is where Crenshaw's warning gets very specific and very technical. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, golf changed fast, almost overnight by the sport's slow standards. Companies built solid core urethane golf balls that flew farther and spun more predictably. They also built huge titanium drivers with bigger heads and more forgiving faces. Before this shift, a bad golf swing was punished hard by the equipment itself. If you mishit the ball, you lost real distance and control, and everyone could see the difference. After the shift, mishits became less painful for the average player and even for the best players in the world. Power became easier to use, even with a swing that was not perfectly repeated every single time. Think of it like baseball, a comparison that makes the whole idea easier to picture. Old wooden bats punish bad contact instantly, sending mishits weakly into the infield. But newer metal bats can still send a poorly hit ball flying surprisingly far, hiding a mistake that should have been punished. That is what happened in golf. The equipment became more forgiving. quietly changing what a good swing even needed to look like. Crenshaw worried this was creating what he called an illusion of better performance. Players could look great without actually improving their skill in the same old ways their teachers once demanded. He felt the sport was rewarding raw power more than smart swings built through years of careful practice. This concern was not silly, and there is real truth sitting inside it. But there is another side worth thinking about carefully. Technology did not erase skill from the game entirely. It simply changed which skills matter most at the highest level. Hitting the ball 300 yards still takes speed, timing, strength, and years of hard training in the gym and on the range. The real problem may not be that today's players lack skill compared to the past. The real problem may be that golf's old tests do not punish modern players the same way they once punished someone like Crenshaw. A driver head that forgives a small mistake still needs a strong, fast body behind it. A ball that flies straighter still needs a swing built through thousands of hours of repetition. The tools changed, but the work required to use them well never really disappeared, even if it looks different from the outside. Crenshaw's biggest fear was always about distance-killing classic golf courses that once felt impossible to solve. Old courses were built around smart choices, forcing players to think before almost every shot. Designers used bunkers, wind, firm ground, and sharp angles to make players commit to a plan from the very first tee shot. But once players could hit the ball far enough to fly straight over those choices, something important got lost from the experience. Picture a green protected by a bunker sitting right in the middle, splitting the putting surface into two narrow sides, each one demanding a different angle. In the old days, a player had to pick the correct side of the fairway just to get a clear shot at the flag, and guessing wrong meant real trouble. That decision mattered deeply, creating pressure on every single tee shot of the round. But if a modern player can smash a giant drive and then float a high wedge shot that stops instantly near the hole, that old decision barely matters anymore, no matter which side of the fairway they choose. The course's clever design loses its bite, and the hole becomes far easier than its creator ever intended. This is where Crenshaw's argument feels the strongest, and honestly hardest to argue against. He is right that many classic holes have lost real meaning at the highest level of the game today. But here is the tough question worth asking anyway. If a course only works when players hit the ball an old specific distance from decades ago, is the modern player really the problem? Or is the course simply stuck in a version of golf that no longer fully exists in the world we live in now? This tension does not have one easy answer, and maybe it never will. To understand what Crenshaw truly loved about golf, beyond strategy and numbers, you have to meet Carl Jackson. Golf was never only about yardage and math for Crenshaw. It was about wind, ground texture, memory, and trust built between two people over many years. Carl Jackson began caddying at Augusta National when he was only 14 years old, carrying bags long before he could even imagine what his career would become. Over time, he became Crenshaw's most important partner on the course, starting all the way back in 1976. Their bond carried real and deeply painful history behind it, a history worth remembering. Augusta once had a caddy system built on open racism, where every player was white and every single caddy was black. Later, tour players were allowed to bring their own caddies from outside the club instead of using local caddies. This decision cost many local black caddies their most important source of income almost overnight. Crenshaw made a personal choice in the middle of that painful shift. He stayed loyal to Carl Jackson, year after year, tournament after tournament. Their partnership showed a kind of golf knowledge that no modern launch monitor or yardage chart could ever fully replace, built instead from years of shared feel, patience, and memory. This human side of Crenshaw's story is powerful, maybe more powerful than any statistic about distance. It shows why he cared so much about protecting the old version of the game he had known his entire life. But it also reveals something important about the shape of his warning. Crenshaw was not only defending strategy or fairway angles on a whiteboard somewhere, he was defending memories, friendships, and a style of golf tied tightly to people and moments from his own personal life. That makes his warning meaningful and deeply human. It also makes it personal in a way that pure strategy alone never could be, and maybe just a little less neutral than it first appears. If Crenshaw's biggest weapon against modern golf was not technology, it was architecture itself. Alongside designer Bill Coore, Crenshaw built a design company built entirely around classic golf ideas from an earlier age. Their core belief is simple enough for anyone to understand. Use the natural land instead of forcing it into fake artificial shapes with heavy machines. Prefer width and smart angles instead of chasing pure length on every single hole. Give everyday golfers plenty of room to play and enjoy their round without constant frustration. Force skilled golfers to think hard about every decision they make from the tee. Use firm, fast ground instead of soft, slow turf that only rewards a high, soft shot. Rely on bunkers, natural slopes, and clever pin placement instead of simply adding more and more yards to a scorecard. You can see these ideas at work in real courses built during the modern era. Trinity Forest in Texas has no high rough at all. Built on land that used to be a landfill, it uses firm, fast fairways and open, windy corridors that reward smart shot shaping over blind power. Sedge Valley in Wisconsin proves something powerful about the future of design. A course under 6,400 yards can still challenge every level of player, without needing extreme length to feel difficult or interesting. Anson Point stretches across 500 acres of land in South Carolina. Yet only 80 of those acres were actually shaped into fairways and greens, letting the surrounding nature stay mostly untouched and wild. Even the famous Pines course was shortened from over 8,000 yards down to under 7,000 yards, proving clearly that smart design can be an answer all on its own, without buying more land. This may be Crenshaw's strongest response to modern golf, and arguably his most lasting legacy. But even here, a fair question remains worth asking out loud. Can clever architecture alone really stop elite distance forever, no matter how far the ball keeps flying? Smart design helps a great deal, and these courses prove it works today. But if equipment keeps improving year after year, and tours keep chasing more power and more spectacle for television audiences, even the cleverest courses may eventually struggle to keep up with where the game is heading. Land itself is not unlimited either. Not every course can be rebuilt or shortened the way the Pines course was, and not every club has 500 quiet acres to work with the way Anson Point does. Architecture buys time and creates beauty, but it may not settle the deeper argument about distance on its own. Now let's return to the fight that made Crenshaw's warning matter again in 2026, decades after he first raised it. Years earlier, in December 2023, the USGA and the R&A announced a plan to slow the golf ball down for everyone. Their goal was to protect old courses and bring shot-making back into professional golf. But almost immediately, powerful groups pushed back hard against the entire plan. Equipment companies like Acushnet, Callaway, and TaylorMade fought against it with everything they had. Selling distance is a huge part of their business, so a slower ball threatened their profits directly and immediately. The PGA Tour also resisted the plan, worried about upsetting players, sponsors, and fans who tune in for excitement. Many top players spoke out too, unhappy that years of gym work and swing speed training might suddenly count for less on the scoreboard. Rival golf leagues added even more pressure behind the scenes, hoping to look faster and more exciting than the competition by comparison. Even outside voices with political and business interests weighed in publicly, arguing that slowing the game down felt like punishing athletic progress itself. None of this is very complicated once you break it all down calmly. Golf's biggest players and companies simply had strong reasons to protect the profitable world they had already built together. Then came June 17, 2026, right before one of the biggest tournaments of the year. On that day, the USGA, the R&A, the PGA Tour, and the DP World Tour announced together that the rollback plan would be delayed until at least January 2030. This is where Crenshaw's old warning met the real world head-on, in front of the entire golfing public. He could point toward the soul of the game and the beauty of the old strategic style he grew up loving. But modern golf is also a massive business built on many moving parts. It is a TV product designed to entertain millions of viewers. It is a fan experience shaped by excitement and long drives. It is a career built on power for many players who trained their whole lives for exactly this moment. Crenshaw's vision of golf may be beautiful and true to history in every meaningful way. But beauty alone does not run a global sport worth billions of dollars every single year. So where does this leave Ben Crenshaw's warning today, now that the debate has returned? In many ways, he may have sounded too old-fashioned for the modern game moving around him. He may have leaned too hard on nostalgia, blaming technology for problems that also came from better athletes and bigger business demands nobody could fully control. He may have longed for a version of golf that simply does not exist anymore, no matter how much people still love its memory and its story. And yet, he also saw something real and genuinely dangerous hiding underneath all the change. If golf becomes only about distance, it slowly loses its imagination, one drive at a time. If every classic course must keep getting longer just to stay relevant, the game becomes more expensive for everyone who simply loves to play it on a weekend. If a bunker placed with careful thought decades ago can simply be flown over without a second glance, architecture starts to lose its deeper meaning entirely. If touch, patience, and strategy fade away completely, golf becomes smaller in spirit, even while the drives keep getting bigger and bigger every single year. Crenshaw may not have had every perfect answer for a sport moving faster than he ever expected it to move, but he asked a question that golf still cannot fully escape today, and probably never truly will. He spent a career choosing control over power, memory over machines, and old ground over new toys. Even people who disagree with him have to admit his instinct was rooted in something honest, a lifetime spent watching, playing, and building the game he loved. He may have been a man looking backward for most of his life, but sometimes the view from behind shows you exactly where the road ahead is leading everyone else. Whether the modern game wants to admit it or not,